and I am here for you. Well, for me really, but for you as well. Good morning. How are you? Today's going to be a really busy show. We are crossing live over to the States after 11. We're going to check in with our American correspondent, Shane Byrne and Karen Byrne, no relation. We'll be in to chat about their exit from Dancing with the Stars. And in Newsy Bits, my old pals, Cormac and Graham, they're going to be in to chat about all the big stories of the day. I had a great weekend. Oh my days. I had a great weekend with Dancing with the Stars. And the match, of course I'm saying, you know, the match, like I know what I'm talking about. I haven't a clue, but I was in my dad's house and the rugby was on. And my 5-year-old son took his life into his own hands as he waltzed into the gaff with an Italian jersey on. Oh, I mean, I put it on him just to annoy my dad for the laugh, like. And thank God Ireland won, but there was a moment before half-time. I actually had to put noise-cancelling headphones on both children and Lau because the language out of my dad was colourful, let's just say. But isn't it great to have a team that are good at something? And fair play to the women's boxing as well. I heard over the weekend. Great news there. But it's great to have a team we can get behind and be fairly confident we'll do okay. So I'm going to be all over the women's football this summer. Woo, woo, woo! And the young fella can definitely wear his green jersey for that one. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. It's a brand new week and we're going to kick off by telling you what is happening in the world. Newsy Bits is on the way. And we are about to do Newsy Bits and we want to talk about a few things, but we are going to talk about... We're going to talk about consent, okay? Because Emily Watson is doing the rounds after a new movie and she had this to say.
Have a conversation with your son about consent. You'll take anything from this movie. But have that conversation and don't be complicit in the status quo, you know? You know, they're all good Catholics. Where is thou shalt not rape?
Let's go. See it. Make some noise. 42.
If you got real love for me, stay away. If you got games and tricks for me, I want a man that means everything he say, and not a boy full of play, pulling rabbits out of his hat every day. Ooh, and baby, I'm scared of you. I don't believe in magic. I believe in love everlasting. Oh, I can't understand that Houdini was a great magician. Well, he could crack a lock. Oh, yes, he could from any position. But my heart is nothing like those locks. And you're falling off of my brand of style. Like Little Red Riding Hood, you're the fox. Ooh, and baby, I'm scared of you. I don't believe in magic. I believe in love everlasting. Ooh, I don't believe in magic. I believe in love everlasting. Don't go pulling no rabbits out your hat. It'll be all I want from that. Baby, now I can't go for that. Oh, baby, I can't understand that, babe.
what you want.
Baby, I'm scared of you. I need some help.
Baby, what you
Baby,
want.
I'm scared of you. I need some love.
Baby, what you
Baby,
need.
I'm scared of you. I need your kiss.
Baby, what you want.
Tell me something good. Well, I will tell you something good because it is 11 minutes past 9 and
Jen's Newsy Bits.
is coming at you. Yeah, this is Jen's Newsy Bits. This is where we bring you the stories that caught our attention this morning. I've two of my pals in, part of the team. I have Mr. Graham Smith and Mr. Cormac, not to be confused with Mr. Cormick Battle, Mr. Cormac Battle.
No, thanks, Jen, for clarifying that.
Good morning.
Not the rich fella. How's it going? You good?
Good. I'm really good. I want to talk about this new movie, God's Creatures, because it we're all talking about it after the weekend. So, the movie God's Creatures, it opened the 21st. At the Dublin International Film Festival, and we were all treated to lots of interviews of its stars. Emily Watson, an amazing actress, and Paul Mescal. They're both in this movie. But it was a brief interview Emily Watson gave to her.ie at the premiere that really caught our attention. So the movie is kind of, this is no spoiler alert because this has been everywhere. The movie is about this mother who gives her son an alibi because he's accused of doing something. And and it's all about consent and parents talking to their boys about consent, really. Let's have a listen to what she had to say to her.ie. Now, she is on a red carpet, so it's a bit noisy.
Yeah, you want to listen carefully.
Clean out your ears for this one.
Have a conversation with your son about consent. Don't take anything from this movie. Have that conversation and don't be complicit in the status quo, you know. They're all good Catholics. Where is thou shalt not rape?
So in the movie, her son is accused of sexual assault. She gives him an alibi, and as Emily Watson said there to her.ie, she said, if I can take anything away from this movie is have a conversation with your son about consent. And I wanted to ask you guys, have you ever had a conversation with your parents around consent?
I think you know the answer to that. Absolutely no. No, well, I can't speak for Graham, but absolutely 100% no. I didn't know. Did I even get any kind of sex education from my parents? It might have been a bit basic, but getting into the areas of the psychological and, you know, that element of sexual encounters, absolutely 100% no. Not a chance. No,
Okay.
It was never going to happen.
Okay. Graham, different generation. Did your... No, you're shaking your head.
It was still just the birds and the bees chat. There was none of this really at all. And I really think there should be.
Just there's some information on consent from healthline.com. Most children don't speak to their parents about sex, but you can change that statistic. One survey of 18 to 25-year-olds found that the majority had never spoken with their parents about, well, being sure your partner wants to have sex and is comfortable doing so, assuring your own comfort before engaging in sex, the importance of not pressuring someone to have sex with you, the importance of not continuing to ask someone to have sex after they have said no, and the importance of not having sex with someone who is too intoxicated or impaired to make a decision about sex. The above study also found that a majority of kids who did have these conversations with their parents said that they were influential. It's really interesting. I think I presume a lot of lads would go listen to this going, I don't need to be told about consent. I know. But I think the conversation is so important now. I mean, because years ago, even 10 years ago, things like porn wasn't so accessible, was it?
No, not at all.
So we're in this era now. We're in a kind of no man's land, a kind of wild, wild west, where certain content is so accessible and pushed and viewed and seen. And, you know, as we've spoken to our sex therapist, I mean, there's huge issues there. So it's vital to have the conversation now, maybe more so than ever.
Well, yeah, and there's so much noise now that we live in, with social media and so on and so forth, and the availability of pornography at the flick of a switch on your phone. that it's. I think consent now has become even a more kind of complex picture than it was ever in the past, because there's so many different types of messages coming from so many different sources for blokes, depending on where they're being influenced and who's influencing
Exactly.
them and who's telling them what's right and what's wrong. So I think well, Emily says, it's don't be. She's saying basically, don't keep the status quo. Talk to your kids about, or talk to your boys about consent. Otherwise, you're complicit in them not adhering to these rules if they go out and do something. Because you not talking to them, you are culpable in some way of being part of them. Not doing the right thing in the future. That's what she's saying. So
Yeah.
she's saying you must talk to them. Otherwise, if they do the wrong thing, you're responsible for that as well.
So after listening to that clip of Emily Watson and those statistics, and going from your own experience, would you be more open to having a conversation about consent with your two young lads?
Yeah, and it's things like this that actually inform me to do these kind of things. I would imagine if it was 20 years ago, like they're not at that age yet, because they wouldn't be able to understand those concepts at all, because they're too young for any of this. But it's I would feel, as Emily says in this, that you have your duty bound to tell your young fellas, especially, about what consent is all about. You'd like to think that most or all boys would have common sense, and you have an understanding of what's decent and what's ethical and what's right. But that line can be blurred, and I think you whether you like it or not, you should have a conversation and talk to them about this. And if you do get kind of, you don't have to get it right, but you have to at least introduce it into a conversation with your kids. I think we've gone beyond the point of saying, I'm leaving that to somebody else.
Do you think there's a lot of lads who might read that or hear that and go, what about the girls? Why
Yeah.
us? It's not all men.
I think,
That
unfortunately, the word consent has become attached to, they're so woke. It's become a political word now in people's minds, and they don't think that this is just basic education that everyone needs. Whether that's sex ed in school, should be definitely included in that, and your parents need to take responsibility as well. But I think, that's the hard bit about this, is lads will say, well, sure, I wouldn't do that, so what's the problem? It's like, yeah, but what about your mate and your mate's mate and the people you don't know? Like, a lot of us, we go into school and we say, why are we learning that? I already know that. I already know right from wrong. But if everyone knew right from wrong, we wouldn't have any crimes. None of this would exist.
Well, the reason we need to do it, because 1 in 5 women in Ireland have experienced intimate abuse. That's why we need to do it. That's basically it. Just look up the statistics on Women's Aid. I mean, this is why, and it's not getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. I think we made, Cork made a very good point. Now, our influences are coming from outside sources that, like I said, it's the wild, wild west. Like, we didn't have that accessibility to the certain types of porn on in our fingertips,
And influential people, so-called influential people that gather millions and millions and millions and millions of followers, and that's that is the Wild West. It's not coming from an informed place.
And make it an all-encompassing thing. Have this in every school, not just single-sex male schools. Have it in mixed schools. Have it like everything.
Is it the school or is it the parents?
Well, I think it's the parents as well. Yeah, but it should definitely be part of sex ed in secondary schools.
Yeah, I think it is coming into sex ed. I think it might be, but I think a bigger conversation, and I think we need to take a responsibility.
Definitely, yeah.
As parents to do that and not go, are they getting that in school, or they might get that? Will they be getting it too late?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that kid has a phone, you should be having all kinds of conversations, because they're entering into a world where they can see and watch and do whatever they want. You know what I mean? So we need to take responsibility for that. Now, I'm not blaming the whole porn industry for that, but I just think in the last 10 years, we're talking about this more.
Well, porn is for adults, Jen, at the end of the day, and the people watching it are kids.
Yeah.
That's the problem with phones.
Absolutely. And 10 years ago, they didn't have that access.
Yeah.
We're being brought into that world. So that's why I think we're having these conversations more, but it's quite, like, the stats are frightening.
Yeah.
I think a lot, most people are decent, but I think that, you know, a lot of people,
course.
and I would include myself in this. You know,
Of
when you hear
course.
these conversations, and I go, like, I would never have any intentions of doing anything to anybody without consent, etc., etc. But I am certainly willing to be educated in this area if it's going to stop other people who might not, who might have different intentions or would be a bit more loose, shall we say, with the, you know, the interpretations of what consent means, and, you know, all around that tricky grey area of sex. Because if the majority of people have to be told and given these lessons or told out loud what to do to stop other men in a minority who may transgress in these areas, then so be it, you know.
I think we need to get them at 12 and 13. Rory has the right idea. Just text in, Jen, I never had a conversation with my dad or my mum about consent, but I certainly have had the beginning of those chats with my 13-year-old. So this is getting it, you know, at the right time,
Yeah.
right? I haven't gone into the darker areas of consent or sexual assault yet, but I've said how important it is to get a firm yes if you want to kiss a girl. It's not just about thinking she or he, if that's the case, suggested they would like to kiss you. You need to ask and get an answer.
I think it's, as well, Jane, like people will say that they say, oh, sure, I know all of that, I don't need it. But as we know ourselves, anytime you redo a lesson on something or you learn something about something you already know a lot about, there's always something new, and you're like, oh, I didn't realise that was part of this.
1 in 5 women in Ireland have experienced abuse, intimate abuse. That is why we need to have the conversation. We're going to take a quick break. You can get your text into me, 51552. Good morning.
Festivals on 2FM.
C-Sessions Surf and Music Festival is back for 2023, June 16th to 18th. It all takes place beside the beach in Bundoran, just 2.5 hours from Dublin, with surfing, skateboarding, BMXing, beach yoga and beach sports. C-Sessions is 3 days of partying by the beach, featuring Kasabian, Becky Hill, The Coronas, Groove Armada, Inhaler, Ben Hemsley, Obscure, Moncrief, Kean Crow, Hannah Lang and loads more. C-Sessions, June 16th to 18th. See Ticketmaster.ie and csessions.com for details.
Festivals on 2FM.
Take a look inside your heart. Is there any room?
One, and in comes the 2 to the 3 and 4. Then I drop the beat I have in store. Lay the lyrics on the top like a rug. Make it sound smooth and later make a dub. Enunciate well, so that you can tell I am not illiterate, no, not even a little bit. Nothing like an idiot. Get it? You want the record? Cool, I'm with it. Let the rhythm take you, shake it cause it makes you. As I turn the knob to the door, you escape through. Going like a gnat, don't be a pup. And I let it play cause dress ain't funky enough. Rasta. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Watch the smooth lyrics that take place. If you want another reason why it must be funky, yo, I am not a jackass, meaning not a donkey, so I will play the game like it should be played. Drop the funk and do the mix so the bass will never fade. Ship it to the station in your jurisdiction. Brothers say I'm dope and the others think I'm bitching. No crowd can avoid the D.O. to the C. When I'm P-E-O-F-O-R-M-I-N-G on the stage. See the simple fact is I am dope and known. I rock a funky beat without a chord, so and it's my conclusion. confusion. You will enjoy the fusion, and I will ascend with the style that I am using. Knowing that it's tough and it's not a buff, I think I'll let it play, cause it's hitting funky enough. Hip hop. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Dread make the funky hip hop music, so check it. Listen to the kick, popping with the click, and with no rehearsals, I'm dropping funky verses. Stupid with the bitch with the thing that you are relying on. You love it when it battles, is the fact that I am buying on suckers. Never come close, cause of knowing. There's no stopping the doc when I am flowing, but in the event someone would try to juice this, stop him in his tracks, show him that I am ruthless. I don't give a damn, don't think that I am joking, cause I don't think it is funny when you're messing with my money. And stick with tell me this, you'll try, you gotta stop him, but with no frills, so I just drop him. Continue with the rhyme and make sure I get mine with no static, cause it's so the SMG to get my 9, but lessons have been learned, now I get it all I'm fun and let it play. When the people say, Trey, yo, it's funky enough. Rasta. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Deal with the D.O. to the C. I need a break so I can check around. See who the hell that is sitting down. I want all chairs off the floor. And if he stands to the wall, show him the door. And I'm kicking the beat to give you something to rock to. I go non-stop to not to look at the clock. You perceive, but can't believe you're being taken. By a beat so cool, you start shaking and shivering. Cause I'm delivering the answer. Haven't seen if you're a hellified dancer. You tried sitting, but it just won't work. Cause the beat is so rough, so tell me, tell it, don't be funky enough. Hip hop. Sing it with me. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. Let's get funky, let's get funky. And with the help of the Dr. Dre, kick it. Na na na. Na na na. Na na na. Na na na. Let's get funky on the mix now, right? Let's get funky on the mix now, right? Let's get funky on the mix now, right? Let's get funky on the mix now. Hey, put it in the middle and drop it on the one, boy.
Welcome back to Jen Zooty Bits. Good morning. It is 9:26. It is Monday, the 27th of February. We are chatting about all the stories of the day. I have Cormac and Graham in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're talking about consent after the movie, what's it called?
God's Creatures.
Thank you. Emily Watson, the star of it, she said if you take anything from this movie is talk to your sons about consent, okay? A text in says, and this is why we're having the conversation and trying to explain why you need to talk to boys about consent. It's always the boys, this texter says. It's always the boys you say to talk to. How about talking to your daughters about consent? Not all girls are angels. This is why we're having this conversation, because I think that's the wrong attitude to come at this.
You have to talk to everyone about this, but the overwhelming majority of the stats are the other way around, and that is why.
That is why we're talking about it. Because 1 in 5 women in Ireland have experienced intimate abuse. Those are the stats. That is why we're having this conversation. The percentage of young lads watching porn, dangerous porn, influential porn, to girls watching porn is staggering. Okay, so their influences are coming from all different places that we don't know and we can't control. So these conversations need to happen now more than ever.
And it's also, again, we talked about it a minute ago, it's the potential, these so-called role models that we all know who we're talking about a lot of the time, who are influencing young guys and the way they live their lives. They're very powerful voices, and you're very impressionable when you're a young man. You just are.
And stuff like that really frightens me. But I remember talking to Coleman Noctor, a child psychologist who comes on the show on a regular basis. And he, and all this is quite frightening. And we're like, oh God, how are we going to raise them? What are we going to do? And there's so much to think about. And this is why we're having this conversation, because hopefully parents are listening. Children get their values from the home. That fundamentally, that's what he said to me. He said the majority of children, they get their values from the home. So if you're having those conversations with your son and your daughter, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. And don't be so fearful of all this chat as well. Don't be afraid of it. But another texter says, Jen, I really believe that the consent conversation needs to be more general conversation with both sexes. Graham, you said this. It makes me uncomfortable that girls are often informed about how they need to protect themselves and boys are told how they need to make sure they don't make girls uncomfortable. I have a boy, I have a girl. They will have those conversations together. Absolutely. As I believe girls should know about asking for consent too from their partner. And boys need to know about making sure they're in a safe situation. Absolutely. Speak to everyone.
Yeah.
Keep talking about it. Mm-hmm. We need to do it now more so than ever. Keep your text coming on that on 51552. I know it's an uncomfortable chat, isn't it, lads?
It is uncomfortable because you don't want to, because of the sensitivities of the world that we live in, you don't want to say something that, comes out wrong. So it's an uncomfortable conversation to have in front of a microphone. Because it's a very sensitive issue.
Would you feel like that as men of this world? I mean, I don't feel that uncomfortable talking about it, but like as blokes, do you feel like this?
Yeah.
I want to be kind of careful.
Yeah,
honestly.
I do. I do. I'm just so terrified of saying unintentionally saying the wrong thing about it because it's such it's a very sensitive issue, and also it should be, part of a curriculum in school, but I don't think parents should rely on the school to pass on these messages. They've got to do it themselves, and they've got to take responsibility for themselves. Because I think that's part of the new parenting curriculum,
Yeah, and in schools apparently. Hi Jen, I teach relationships and sexuality education in all boys' schools, and consent is the first lesson.
Fantastic.
Yeah, first lesson we address with students. It always provokes great discussion, and it's such an important way to start a module. There we go.
Yeah. Just by having a big discussion about something in class,
just shake off the
makes it, but obviously gives it importance to the kids you're talking to in the classroom,
and being able to have a safe space where you can say, well, if I do this and they do that, is that okay?
Yeah.
Like actually asking, is this too far? Where's the line?
Yeah. Talk about it rather than discover it in real time in a real situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're a nation, we're a drink culture, the drug culture and all of that. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
And people we just need to be clear. And we need to get those stats down. That 1 in 5, we need to get that down.
Regardless of how modern we think we are, we're still pretty repressed in this area of talking about, sex and stuff like that, compared to, I would imagine, our European friends.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I think they're flat out talking about it.
Absolutely.
And that stat I read out is just Ireland as well. Okay, well, you can keep your text coming in on that. Graham, you want to talk about
balloons,
famous
Jen.
sculpture. Now, I've seen this.
The dog balloon thing.
Yeah, it's been knocking around the internet. Go on.
Yeah, so this artist, Jeff Koons, he has famous sculptures that they're basically balloon dogs and loads of stuff kind of made from balloons. But the works are really fragile. And one attendee found out that they were extremely fragile when she knocked over a piece worth nearly €40,000. So she was attending this fair's new opening. There was a cocktail hour for the opening, and walked by and ended up kicking the thing that the balloon animal was on, and it fell over and cracked. So we were thinking, in this article now, it talks about loads of people who have ruined expensive stuff. So one Twitter user shared their unfortunate time where they accidentally threw their new MacBook into the bin with a pile of papers, and they never got it back.
Well, at least it was their own.
Yeah, that is true.
It was theirs. I think it's worse if you do that to someone else.
Well, this guy parked a brand new car outside their home, accidentally hit drive instead of reverse, and crashed into their wife's car.
That's a regular one.
Yeah,
that is
that's
a regular
standard
one.
That's
Standard.
a standard one.
Well,
yeah.
what about? But this guy playing with his wedding ring and accidentally swallowed it. I think we need more on that story. Have you ever swallowed your wedding ring, Jen?
No, I haven't, but I won't wear it, just in case some better offer comes along. No, I don't have it on today. Lau doesn't wear his wedding ring. We're not talking about wedding rings. I want to talk about stuff that you've messed up, because you did something really random as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, and I didn't even know it was wrong. It was bizarre. So I was in my mate's mom's car, and we were driving to the park or somewhere. I must have been in play school. It's a very early memory. And I found a pen in the back of the car, So in this new car, and I was like, oh, when I have a pen, I'm supposed to draw. So I just started drawing all over the back of the car.
You just said it's a new car.
A new car.
Oh.
And we were driving for about 40 minutes. So I had done... You
lot of fancy
probably sell
artwork.
these drawings for millions now. So I'd done a load of drawings over the back of the passenger seat and the side where you pull down the window. And there was just loads of drawings of random crap. And she got out and absolutely freaked out. But I didn't realise what I was doing was wrong. I just thought when you had a pen, you draw.
Of course she freaked out.
Yeah.
Of course she freaked out.
Little
Oh my
shit.
God.
I didn't know, Jen. I knew after that. But yeah,
Holy-
that wasn't my
That's
finest
Drew
moment.
all over a brand new car. Like, who does that?
4-year-olds.
No. No. Sorry.
I had an issue with a car, but I wasn't 4. I was trying to impress a lady at the time, and I was driving my dad's car. I think I was 17. I think you're allowed to drive 17 at the time. I'm not 100% sure. But I was driving the car, and I was driving around this girl in the car in circles, like, you know, just I had the steering wheel fully turned.
You were doing
and
Doing donuts.
Yeah, well, I wasn't screeching the wheels or anything, but I was going round and round and round and round. And as I was trying to impress her, I let the steering wheel go a little bit, and the car just bashed and straight into it around the roundabout beside us, and the car went up onto the roundabout, basically took the whole undercarriage of the car away. And it was my dad's taxi as well. He was a taxi guy in Kilkenny, and I did 1,200 quid's worth of damage. I hadn't a Rex. He had to pay for the damage, and all that.
So you didn't even have to, and I'm sure you didn't have, well, you probably had thousands in your bank account as a 4-year-old.
Trust fund.
Did you have to pay any of that, like, out of your trust fund?
I don't know, Jen.
I bet you
can
did.
ask my bank manager.
Oh, you little rip! I would have. If I had one of my kids' friends on a play date, and they took out a pen and drew on all over my car, they would be no longer with us. I'm just saying. Right? I go absolutely bananas. I have another car story. Well, I went round to my friend's once. I was trying to keep her kids occupied because I wanted to chat to her, have her all to myself. So I said, I will pay you to clean my car. They were delighted. So I went under my friend's sink and I gave her a bucket with loads of bits and pieces, and they went out delighted with themselves, thought this was great. It was a sunny day. Cleaned the whole car. I went out. All the paintwork was scratched off the car because I gave them Brillo pads instead of sponges.
No.
And and the worst thing was, I had to give the little feckers a $5 to clean the car after because it was my fault.
To destroy your car.
I was like,
I'm glad you said it was your
thank you.
fault.
It was. I know.
It really was
my
your fault.
It really was my
You
fault.
gave him a bag of Brillo pads to clean your car.
That feeling when you destroy something like really expensive, like a car or that woman at the art gallery, or it's just the most horrific feeling.
Oh, it's not good. No.
It's like you get that pain in the pit of your
yeah,
stomach.
yeah.
It's like,
especially when it's somebody else's thing that is broken. It's somebody else's.
Oh,
Like I had to, with my dad's car.
You had to tell him.
I had to tell him, and it was such a ridiculous thing to happen. Wasn't good at all,
And how did he react?
How did he react? I think it was kind of like, we'll talk about this later. I had to get the car towed and all this kind of stuff. So he needed the car to drive as a taxi. So I think he sort of, in trying to get it all back on the road again, he'd sort of forgotten about me in the equation. Didn't have time to give me a baiting down a lane. So
Do you feel guilt? Do you feel guilt over your friend's parents' car, Graham?
I felt huge guilt because I didn't realise what I was doing was wrong. And then she started screaming and I was like, oh,
And she
Jesus,
started
what have I
screaming.
done?
Of course she started screaming. It was a brand new car.
Oh,
and
Graham.
he'd written all over the back of it.
Oh, great. Are you still friends with this kid?
Do you know what the funny thing is? My friend was just sitting there watching me. So he obviously didn't
He's
know
only
anything better
5.
either.
He's
Yeah,
only
this
5.
is
What's
what
he
I'm
meant to
saying.
do?
Are you still friends with that kid?
Yeah.
And do the parents ever bring it up, like anecdotally?
I'm going to bring it up with him and see he'll probably won't remember.
You owe them thousands of euro, Greg.
Was it a Bentley? Was it?
Was it a nice jammer?
No.
Porsche?
It
Was it something fancy like?
No, it wasn't something fancy.
If you are that parent, 51552, how much does Graham owe you?
Yeah.
We'll
have
rinse
a whip,
it.
we'll have a whip around.
We'll have a way. No, he can pay it himself.
fair
Absolutely. But have you ever broken or damaged something really, really expensive? And like Graham, not given two flutes about it. Like, absolutely
come
not
on,
a care
Jen.
in the world.
4-year-old. I didn't know
How
what
did
was
you
going
not
on.
You mo-
know
you- no,
that
you're
was
moving
wrong.
It was 5 a minute ago. Now you've moved it to 4.
I was a 0.
No, no. You knew what you were doing. He knew what he was doing.
Ah, yeah. Of course you did.
You didn't know what you were doing. Cork.
No, I didn't.
He didn't know what he was doing at what, 17?
That was
the
an
first
accident.
flushes
Yes.
of love.
That was an
trying
accident.
to
Oh,
impress
yeah.
this
No,
lady
no,
with my,
Ah, yeah.
with my amazing
17.
donuts.
Fine.
Yeah, and
whatever.
I was just being thick.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Jennifer Zamparelli
Weekday morning from 9.
on 2FM.